What's up, guys? BJ Dell back with an all-new weekly art challenge review video. Last week's word was autumn, as chosen by Amy over on the Patreon page. So let's see what you guys came up with. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and jump into the video. For anybody that's new that's watching these videos, I go through the Facebook page, the Keep Creating group that started over there on Facebook, and just select, 5 or 6 different submissions for the week. I don't necessarily pick the best ones, I don't necessarily pick the ones that need the most work, and I try not to pick the same people every week. What I do is basically go through and look for ones that there's something that stands out that I can use as kind of a teaching technique and can talk about in these videos. So that being said, the first one up today is Tiffani, and this is another key point too that talk about. It does not matter if you do digital. You don't have to have an iPad and Procreate and everything that's taught on this channel. If you use traditional methods, submit your work as well. And Tiffani did that because she used traditional watercolors on this, and I just really love this design. Super cute. It has a very nostalgic look to it. It makes me kind of reminisce about, older children's book illustrations that I read when I grew up. And, this is just a really great piece. I love the overall expression on the squirrel and the attention to detail here too with the acorn hat and, getting ready for autumn with the coat and the scarf. I just think is really cute. Jack-o'-lantern pumpkin down here is a really nice touch as well to kind of balance out the design. And I also like just the use of these really light colors here in the back that kind of give the impression of the falling leaves off in the distance. Almost makes a pattern and doesn't really draw your eye away from anything. They're done really, light and just look really natural in there. And I think it kind of helps add a little bit of something extra to the design. Also like the watercolor work too, just the way that she got a bunch of different tonal values out of the colors is really nice. You can see the brush strokes here and the way that she used the watercolor to her advantage of just getting this nice flow to the colors. I love the rosy red cheeks. I think that is a great touch and just really adds a lot of character to the squirrel itself. So really great job there. The one thing I would talk about here, and I did touch about on this last week's video on the hot air balloons, talking about Ken's design and thinking, when you're doing a piece that has, fabric or clothing and the way that everything folds and wraps around each other. Ken did a really great job of kind of curving his lines the way that the balloon's creases came in. And I said it's really important to kind of keep an eye out for details when you're using clothing on characters and on designs. And this kind of comes in here. You've got the hands kind of stuffed into the pockets, which I think is really cute because it shows, that it's cold outside and he's keeping his hands warm. And I think that's a good design choice. However, I would probably put a little bit more work into the actual pockets themselves. There's no lines that really show it's a pocket, and where the cuff of the coat arm comes up here and stops, it just basically stops there and goes directly into the blue of the coat. So there's nothing to really signify that there's a pocket here. This one, it's not too bad on this side. This side is really kind of jarring because if you think here, this is almost like 3 layers, not like layers in a digital piece, but just, layers stacked on top of each other in the real world. So you've got the arm here of the coat, which then sits above the scarf, and then that scarf then sits above the actual, part of the coat back here. So the hands going into the pocket, however, where the pocket would be here, the scarf is actually sitting on top of where that hand would come in, and this doesn't break off right. So it looks a little weird there. A couple of ways around that. If you just bring out a line here, just kind of signifying that there's a pocket there, because the pocket's going to actually stretch out a little bit past, I think that would be okay. Or the other option too is if you bring that down even further and then just kind of have the hands there going into the pocket, and then you could color in the fur here. That would be, another option to kind of make it look a little bit more natural, like there's pockets actually where the hands are going into. Like I said, on this side, the problem here arises where that hand's going to come here into the pocket. It's actually has the scarf sitting on top of there. So we'd have to pull this out here for the pocket, and then from here, you're honestly going to want to probably pull the blue of the coat up further, make that pocket come up there, and then you're going to have to stop the scarf a little bit further over. So this would take some work to, get everything the way it needs to be, but just to kind of show you real quick here, just how it looks a little bit more natural. So we've got the scarf stopping here, so it's actually going to come back and around. So the scarf is going to sit underneath this here, and the hand here is going to be now on top of, kind of in a layer sense of where the scarf is, and it's going to look a little bit more natural going into that pocket. So you can kind of see there, looks a little bit more believable, a little bit more realistic, even though it's, a super cute cartoon look. You still want to, kind of have a little bit of realism when it's concerned with stuff like that. And then from here, you can put some lines down here to kind of show that the hand's taking up weight there in the pocket. Or the other thing you could do too, because you did the shadowing here so nice with the darker colors, you could just pull around some darker blues in here to kind of give the hint that there's some weight inside and underneath of that fabric there where the hands are sitting. So that would be my one piece of advice here is, just really kind of pay attention to the way clothes work, the way they flow together, and just get everything lined up. So even though, like I said, it is a cartoon, it's still believable the way that the clothes would fall. So fantastic job, Tiffany. Thanks so much for sharing that one today. Next one up is Brian, and this one is just absolutely gorgeous. I think Brian said something about autumn in California, and that's what this one kind of signifies. And just the colors here, number one, are just amazing. Everything flows really well together, and the color choices are just honestly impeccable. And I like just the texture brush that was used throughout. It really helps to kind of build up the design. You can kind of picture of just kind of how plain it would look, really cool, but how plain it would be, just solid colors, and using this texture brush throughout and giving different values to these colors as they go from the foreground to the distance is just super, super cool. I love it. I also love too just the way that these kind of leaves from the branches build up here but then trail off into almost just that solid geometric pattern in the back. I just think it's really well done. And like I said, the brush work with the textures and then the colors themselves, just everything flows in nice, and it has this nice kind of organic, flow to the overall piece, and the way the composition just kind of flows into each other is just super, super good. So love seeing this one this week, Brian. So thanks so much for sharing that. Next up is Kylie, and Kylie went with a piece of pumpkin pie and kind of posted some progress shots of this as it went along. And I think this one's really, really good. Of course, this one has a more almost photorealistic look to it, and I think you really knocked this one out of the park. It looks super, super good. The way that this kind of trails off in the back here, and you've kind of got this haze around here, almost adds in that depth of field to it, which I think is really nice. And the filling for this pie is just super, super good. I think you did an incredible job. Like I said, it really has that sense of photorealism to it, and I think it is really, really well done. The one thing I would probably go back in and maybe add a little bit to is the way that the whipped cream up here kind of just stops. It's just a pretty much solid white where it hits the actual top of the pie. I would probably try to add a little bit more shadows into this. So adding some shadows here to the top of where the whipped cream is would probably be one way to do that. Get on the right layer here. So just adding, a little bit more shadows down here where it actually touches. And then also, of course, that's going to have a little bit of weight to it as well. And then going back in and just adding a little hint of shadows, not going too dark with it, but just a little hint so you can see that this actually setting on top of the pie. So if you go in just a little bit darker down here and start to build that up, I think that would help to kind of make that look as photorealistic as what the actual pie filling itself looks, so it doesn't just go directly in from that harsh white right to the exact same color of the pie here. So it's got, like I said, just a little bit of weight to it, and then you can kind of build that up throughout in the way that it kind of curves in. So, but absolutely fantastic job. I love seeing that one. I love, the photorealistic work, and that one just blew me away. So great job, Kylie. Next one up is Alan, and Alan's got this super cute boy and his dog with a pumpkin monster behind, and I love the little touches here, like the candle inside the mouth. I think is really, really cute. And you know, the text down here, you hear that boy or two boy, just a great way to tie in the design. I love pieces like this that can tell a story. You wouldn't even really need the words down here to understand what's going on. And I think the words work with it, so I'm not, knocking that by any means, but I'm just saying that the design is strong enough that you don't even need the words to know what's going on. I think the words and the way that you phrased it is a really cute addition to it too. So good job. The one thing here that I would probably go in and kind of do a little bit of adding to is the body here with the clothing. You've got one line here of kind of a highlight coming out, but the top and the pants here, it just looks really flat just having the solid color. A few different ways that you could add to this is, if you just put some crease lines coming off of the clothes, I think that would work pretty well to kind of break it up a little bit and add, just a little bit more stuff going on with the clothing, and it wouldn't look so just plain and flat. The other thing too you could do is add some more highlights down one side. I've talked about this before, and sometimes I add in some highlight, and they're not really highlights how I add them. I do this, solid shadowing, and then I'll go back in and erase some of the shadowing so they look like highlights, but they're actually just the base color. And sometimes they don't really go where you would necessarily have them, but I do it just to break things up along like the meeting lines here of the darkened part with the black line. I especially do that with print on demand stuff just because it helps make the design pop. If you're putting it on a black t-shirt, it just doesn't look so solid all the way across. So sometimes it might go against the actual way that a highlight would work, but it's sometimes necessary just to kind of add a little bit more into the design and break up those solid colors of shadows. Same thing down here, just going in and, kind of maybe making some more lines here. And if you wanted to as well, you've got this super shadowed part here. You could add in another shadow layer if you weren't comfortable with adding in highlights like down here. You could add in another shadow layer down here to where the shirt's kind of coming over top and going to put a shadow here on the pants, so you could add a darker layer down here just so you didn't have one solid color. So that's one of the key things there. The other thing too I would work on is definitely the line weight, and I've talked a lot about line weight in previous videos. If you haven't checked out the one that I did explaining line weight, it's got the fox on the thumbnail for it, but the line weight and use of line weight correctly is just really good to add a little bit more of interest to your drawing or your design. Draw a little bit more of the viewer's eye into it. And you'll see here, like the hand, everything has just got the same line weight all the way through the hand. And if you kind of switched that up and worked on these and made, some lines thicker, some lines thinner, it would go a far way to just make the design a little bit more interesting, and it would read a little bit better, make it look less plain, just because I think solid lines really kind of make the design look plain. So if you kind of, like I said, made those lines thinner, made some of these lines thicker, maybe on these arms, making one of the lines thicker, leaving the other one the same weight, and you can just see how this is starting to build up and just look a little bit more interesting. Everything's not the exact same width, and it just kind of makes it a little bit more poppy. So very good job though. I loved seeing that one, Alan. So great storytelling ability with that piece. Thanks for sharing. Next one up is Steven. Steven's kind of shows what I was talking about with the line weight. You'll see that the outside lines here, you've got a really nice thick line weight, and then the inside lines that make up the bark, he used a lot thinner ones in here, and I think that works really, really well. It helps to make the character pop as far as, the overall outline and the size and the shape of the character. These lines here are just, basically additional lines that kind of help build the inside parts of the character. So you don't want those as thick. They're more of just details. So having thinner ones there, I think works really well. Character design itself is just fantastic. I like the kind of stance that he's taken here with the one arm down to the side and the other one just kind of resting here on his hip. I just think it's a super good design. The way that the the roots come down to here to give the appearance of the feet that go up into the legs of the tree is just fantastic. And it's got just an overall really good character design to it. The one thing I noticed, I'm not sure if it's pulling up and you can see it on screen. The background here, I don't know if you meant to do this. It's got almost like a pink tinge to it to where it kind of washes everything out. I would probably just go ahead and just do a white background there. I don't know if you can see the difference between those two and what they do, but the white background I think was just make this pop a little bit more. That pink one, like I said, it ties in a little weird, and I'm not sure if you meant to do that on purpose or not, but the blue here in the background is really good. I've talked before in the videos about complementary colors and using the color wheel to your advantage. And if we pull up the color wheel here, we've got the brown, which sets, it's a orange hue of brown, and then going straight across here, we've got blue. And I think you want a little bit more with like a greenish blue, but I think this still works, and blues work really well against browns and make the browns pop. So I think it was a good color choice for the blue, but just great job on the line work and overall fantastic piece. So welcome to the group. Appreciate you submitting this week. And last but not least is Kevin. And Kevin's got a welcome fall design. And I think Kevin said that he thought this was a little bit too plain, too much texture or noise, and not enough details. And I'm going to have to disagree. I like what you did here. The first thing I saw when I thought when I saw this is, honestly, it reminds me of stuff that you see on the shelves at, you know, Joann Fabrics or Michael's or Hobby Lobby during this time of the year. It has that very just nice, just traditional look to it. It almost has the way that you didn't go super detailed with this. It almost has that kind of primitive feel to it. And not talking about like primitive, like basic, but like primitive, like the art style. And it works really well. And you see that a lot with, you know, autumn stuff and fall stuff. You've got all kind of the tropes, or, you know, the things that you associate with fall, which I think works really well. And the lettering looks good. I know you said you didn't like the M, but I like the M here. And this is all, I believe, you know, hand lettered. And I think you did a fantastic job with that. The kind of texture that the letters have here is really nice, and then the way that this is all textured, I like it. I think it might have been too much if you just went solid with it, but the way that you kind of have it darker here and fading out, I think works really well. And the way it's all tied into that coffee cup, I think is really good too. And the way here that you kind of have it fading down and it's darker right here, and the way the coffee cup fades from dark to light is done really well. If you'd reversed those and had this, you know, fading from dark to light, I think it would have been too much noise in there and, you know, too much going on. And I think the way that you did it here is absolutely perfect, where there's barely any texture right here, and it goes into pretty heavy texture once it comes out of the cup there. And a piece like this, is it coming into the cup or is it coming out of the cup? You know, so anyways, I think it's a really good job, Kevin. So thanks so much for submitting. And those are the designs for this week. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. As always, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. If you like today's video too, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you can get alerted when I post new videos. So last week's word was taken from the Patreon page. This week's word is taken from Patreon as well. I want to thank Harvey for this suggestion. This week's word is going to be baby. So let's see what you guys can do. It can be, you know, human babies, animal babies, Muppet babies. Just as long as it's something to do with babies, you're good to go. So what you need to do is join the Keep Creating group over on Facebook. The link is in the description below. Post your design over there. But like I said in this video today, it doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, digital. It can be traditional, and your designs don't necessarily have to be all about these art challenges. You can post anything you want to in the group as long as you drew it or painted it or created it, because that's what it's all about, is keep creating. So we want to see what you guys came up with. So we will see you over there, hopefully. As for me, I can be found on Patreon, which I'll link that in the description, as well as on my website, bjdell.com, and Instagram and Twitter at bjdell. So until next time, keep creating.